Hi friends! I have my good old friend the microphone back. I'm so excited. And that's the last time I will pet it, because that's weird. Okay, so want to call a different prop to your attention today. And like, no big deal if you can't find something like this, but if you have a beach towel or a bath towel or like a thicker towel than a hand towel and you roll it up, this might be nice for a couple of the things that we could use extra support for today, but truly, if this is just a pillow or your block or whatever it usually is, may not work for some stuff. Try it. If it doesn't feel right, don't use it. There's going to be plenty of options as per usual. Fun fact, I'm also broadcasting this on my IG live, so who knows? We're going global today. But yeah, I'm gonna paste in my little message. Great to see you all. We today are going to be focusing on opening up all of the stuff that gets nice and tight and tucked in when you're sitting at a desk or sitting at a laptop or even just like on your phone typing and looking down. So the neck, the shoulders, the chest, and then also the hips and the lower back, those things that tend to get a little crunchy when you're like, you know, maybe not stretching as often as you would like to. Okay, just letting some more people into the room here. We've got our setup with the mat. If you have it, some sort of towel, the bath towel, beach towel works great as long as you can kind of roll it up. And it gives you a little more press than your block or pillow would. But again, all of these props, totally optional. These are what I'm going to be using today. So I'm also going to note that there's going to be a point at which I stand up. So you won't be able to see me, but I'll be super clear with what I'm doing, and then we'll just tip right back down. No big deal. Heads are not always necessary for this type of thing. Okay, let me just get this waiting room in here, and we will get started. Just making sure super quickly that the audio is good. Yay! Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming. So here are the options I'm going to offer you at the beginning with your towel. So you come to sit on your shins, and one nice way to like add an extra stretch, we love double duty here, is tucking this either right up against the crease behind your knees and sitting back, seeing what that feels like. Depending on how thick your towel is, it might really get in there, and in that case, maybe you want to move it down a little, maybe closer to the Achilles. Take some time here to see how that feels for you. And as we're sitting, you can totally like adjust or take a time to get rid of it for a bit and then bring it back. But this is just a way to open up in the calves and some of those places that don't maybe get as much stretch love. And that person is gone from the waiting room. So yeah, if you don't love that option, another option I'll offer is tucking your toes and sitting back. So you'll get a stretch along the bottom of the feet into that plantar fascia. Lots of super fun stuff to stretch today. All right, so once you've had a little time to play there, settle in, bring your palms to rest on your thighs, bring the shoulders up to your ears and let them drop, and again, up, tight to the ears, let it go. And from here, you can kind of use the way that we're sitting to tuck the tailbone, bring the lower ribs down toward the belly button, but make sure that the shoulder blades are strong and pulling backwards so that the chest still feels open even though the spine is maybe a little more aligned in one straight line than it is with its natural curve. You can let the eyes close here and just start to focus on your breath. Is it slow, shallow, deep, maybe a little irregular? The breath is always a great hint as to what your body needs in that moment. So, an example, when you're stretching, even though you're not like cardioing or moving a lot, sometimes the breath will quicken in a challenging pose, especially if you're twisting or doing something your brain is a little afraid of. The breath is going to speed up to support you in what it thinks is support. But the more aware you are to that quickening, that tightening in the body, the more you can just notice and see it, acknowledge it, and do with it what you think you will. Sometimes you need that extra breath if you're running or we're moving through some more quicker sets of movement. Sometimes the heart rate, the breath, you could just slow it down a little. So now that we've sort of checked in, go ahead and let the eyes open and drop the chin down toward the chest. Feeling that stretch along the back of the neck as we super easily start to roll the neck toward the right, all the way around. So finding space, keeping it slow, keeping the shoulders drop down away from the ears here. And the next time your right ear is toward your right shoulder, let it stay. If you want a little more, you can bring the right hand to the top of your head, lightly resting it there, not necessarily pulling down. And to add even more here, you can reach long with the left arm. It doesn't have to touch the mat. Just breathe into that place of tension. Notice it. Allow your focus to rest there. And we'll let everything drop, letting that head roll back down, chin tucked. Shoulders maybe collapsed a little here. Shake it out. We'll move into the other side. So starting that slow roll to the left. Dipping the chin all the way, lifting it. And then the next time your left ear hits your left shoulder, let it stay. Taking again those options to maybe bring the left hand to the top of the head. Reach long with the right arm through the fingertips. So there's one line coming all the way from the fingertips up to the top, the crown of your head. Breathe here. And let it go. This time the shoulders will lead the roll, so you're pulling up, back, and forward. Maybe adding in a little bit of ribs there if it feels nice. And the next time you roll back, go ahead and interlace your fingers behind you. Straighten the arms as much as is comfortable and use that to open the chest here. Maybe you also want to look up and then let that go. We'll move it into a forward shoulder roll this time. Now is probably about when you're like, oh, maybe I could adjust the towel underneath my calves. It's coming. Once you are forward, interlace again, maybe the opposite way than you're used to interlacing, and use those fingers to pull forward, caving in with the spine, pressing the belly button back to the back of the room and dipping the chin. I always love a little rock side to side here, just opening up along the back of the rib cage. And here is your point at which you can maybe move this down closer to the Achilles, maybe get rid of it, maybe opt for that bottom of feet stretch instead by coming up and tucking your toes. We're here for about 1 more minute. So once you've resettled, we're gonna start moving with the ribs and the chest. So think about if you know a down dog or a cat-cow movement in the spine. It's kind of like that. So you're pulling back on the inhale, and the exhale is closing things in, almost giving yourself a big hug as you spread all across the shoulders. Inhale to open, exhale to close. And for me, this feels good with the arms a little bit bent, but maybe try keeping them straight. What's that like for you? The next time you cross into that hug, stay there and bring the arms or the forearms up together in front of you. Maybe you can grab onto the hands just to like keep that tucked in and tight. This should stretch across the back of the shoulders. If you want a little bit more, the bottom arms, the elbow that's on the bottom, you'll want to move that toward that side of the room. So my right elbow is on the bottom. I'm moving my arms toward the right, deepening the stretch. And if you want even more, you can glance over the opposite shoulder. One more deep inhale. And then let that go. We'll come back into the other side just through 3 of these. Inhaling to open, exhaling to close. Inhale, exhale, inhale. And then this time put that opposite shoulder underneath for the exhale. We'll come up, wrap those arms to the best of your ability. They don't have to look just like this. And then maybe take those options again to twist and glance over your opposite shoulder. This is our last few seconds sitting on our shins here. If you're feeling resistance, if you're feeling a little bit of, hey, please shift your position, pay attention to that. That's just another signal that your body is giving you, saying, hey, I need something here, or pay attention to me. Let it go, shake it out. And you can remove your prop if you haven't already, and we'll walk forward onto all fours. So, hands planted right underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, about hips width distance here. And this is where I'm gonna let you play a little. The basic movement is dropping the chest on the inhale, lifting the chin, pushing the tailbone up to the sky, and on the exhale, sending everything in the opposite direction, pushing down into the mat with the knees, the toes, the hands. But this is just your base. So you can roll with this. You can maybe add a bit of a forward and backward movement. The important bit is moving with your breath. So if your breath is quick, keep the movement quick. If you want to be nice and slow and really milk it, keep it moving the whole time, that's totally up to you. I'm going to give you like 4 or 5 rounds of that on your own. Keep the breath moving. Maybe if you went to circle one way, now is the time to start circling the other. And then here, rotating the palms of your hands so that your fingertips are facing back toward your knees. See what it feels like to sit back and forward. Maybe take a little bit of a rotation, just finding some stretch in the forearms. We don't get a lot of stretch there either. It's kind of like the bottom of your feet, that place we don't maybe give a lot of love to, so you don't realize how tight it can be. If this is feeling good, another thing you might want to try is putting the palms the opposite way, so the palms facing up and the tops of the hands pressing down into the mat, so that stretch comes all the way along the front of the forearms here. Beautiful, and then you can go ahead and just like shake out however feels good. And we will come out to fingertips, about the same distance, and you'll want to like make a nice tent so that your fingers are pressing down into the mat and you feel supported into the chest as we move with our breath into some shoulder dips. So inhaling and then exhaling to dip to one side. How much you dip is totally up to you. Your shoulder will send you a signal when you've gone a little too far, maybe close to too far. Just take that, keep it moving. Just like with the cat-cow, you feel like there's some sort of extra bit you want to add. Maybe a little shift of the hips one way or the other. Try it, add it in. We'll keep that going maybe one more time each side. Just getting into those shoulders here. And then once you've gone through, bring the knees wide, walk the arms long for a child's pose. Forehead and nose come down to the mat, shoulders push away from the ears again. And see if you can use the pressing of your hands to press your hips even further back. I always feel kind of like that towel trick is the magic way to get my hips closer to my heels in child's pose, so maybe take note of what that's like for you. On your next inhale, walk yourself over toward the right, both hands reaching long to stretch the left side of the body, bending the breath into that left rib cage. Stay here and breathe. Let your next inhale walk you all the way over to the left side this time, stretching the right rib cage. Feel that reach again from the seat of your hip down to the right fingertips, the left fingertips. As you open even more with each inhale. And then go ahead and walk it back to center. And from here, you can just scoot yourself out to come to lay on the belly. And keep the elbows pulling back toward your rib cage. So this is like a sphinx, which is why we call it sphinx pose. You'll not want to let your chest sink down and let the shoulders come up. Instead, staying strong and lifted and supported in the core, lifting the chin, kind of thinking of using the forearms to pull back, pulling your chest through your arms. Couple more breaths here. Feeling what this is doing to your back. Just taking note. And an exhale will roll you down. Planting the hands right next to your chest, we'll push up maybe even further with an inhale. Exploring what things are like, coming back down with the exhale. How is my back doing today? How is my chest doing today? Keep that rolling 2 more times through. Inhale to lift, maybe coming a little higher each time. Exhale to lower. Last one. Inhale to lift. And exhale to lower. From here, you'll bring your right arm into like a cactus shape, so a 90-degree angle, with the elbow in line with the shoulder, and you'll keep that left hand planted right next to the rib cage. Using the left hand, pressing down into the mat, take your left leg up and over to roll your body open onto that right shoulder. You should feel the stretch in the chest, the armpits. Maybe you want to play with lifting the head or letting the temple skin drop to the mat. How does that change the stretch for you? Maybe you can step that left foot flat on the ground and use it to keep the hips turning, twisting. And if you're here and kind of hating this, focus on the breath. Sending inhales to make more space where you need it. One more deep inhale. And let the exhale gently, slowly unroll you back to the center of the mat so we can take the opposite side. Again, 90-degree angle, keeping the elbow in line with the shoulder, planting the right hand right next to the rib cage, and peeling it open. Ooh, this one is talking today. This is one of those constricting positions too for the breath. Try to keep it rolling, keep it smooth. Last inhale, keep it deep. And then exhale out to roll back. Whew. All right, so from here you can kind of bring your forehead to your hands at the front of the mat and bend both knees, allowing the hips to kind of windshield wiper from side to side. Just giving your lower back a little break here before we do one more thing. All right, so keeping the right leg bent and the left leg coming back long on the mat. From here you'll reach back with your right hand and either stay here for a quad stretch, the key being that you're pressing the right glute down into the mat to open up the front of the hip, or you can choose to, again, come into that bit of a Sphinx pose and use the prop of your elbow to lift the chest, kicking the top of the foot into the hand to open the chest even more. This is an option. You are more than welcome to stay here with the quad stretch. 2 more breaths wherever you chose to be. Your next exhale will gently let that foot back down. We don't want to ricochet it to the mat. And we will switch sides. So reaching back this time for the left foot, engaging the left glute and pressing down into the mat, or setting yourself up once more to open the chest by kicking the foot back into your left hand. Taking stock here, what do you need? If you come up into this and your body says 100% no, come back down. If you come up and your body says, maybe no, stay for a little longer. See what happens. Last inhale, and the exhale will take you back down to the mat. Once more, maybe you don't bend your knees this time, just take a little shake from side to side on those hips. And we will plant the hands, pressing up so that we can tuck the toes and easy slowly come up into a downward facing dog. So you can adjust yourself, maybe step in a little closer, maybe start to pedal out the feet, bending opposite knees. And if you are pedaling, go ahead and turn that into a walk. So you just walk step by step, nice and slow to the front of the mat here, where you can bring the knees and the legs hips width apart, grab onto your opposite elbows, add a little bend into the knees, and just let yourself relax here. If the chest doesn't come to the thighs, deepen the bend of the knees to take some pressure off of the lower back. Let the top of the head hang down to the floor. Maybe it feels nice to sway from side to side. Checking in here. And then drop the arms so that we can super slowly, one vertebrae at a time, start to roll yourself up to stand. You won't be here long. I just want to make sure that you're super focused on coming up, keeping the chin tucked to the chest, as slow as possible. Head is the last thing to lift. Once you're there, shoulders roll up and back so that you can interlace the hands, straighten the arms, and dip right back on over, allowing the arms to fall forward. Maybe this time you keep a micro bend in the legs, but try to straighten them a little bit more than we did before, getting into the hamstrings. Not allowing those shoulders to creep up next to your ears, but still clasping on if you can. We're here for one more breath. And gently, without ricocheting again, let those arms fall to the ground. From here, we'll take a nice long step back with the left or the right leg, dropping the back knee to the ground. And we'll kind of walk the right hand off of the mat a little bit so that we can open up into a nice wide twist here. Maybe it feels great to have that arm pulling you over. Maybe you want to do a different thing and use some opposition to press on the inner thigh of the left leg to open the chest. Whatever feels good. Take a few breaths here. feeling open. Maybe you want to untuck that back toe and lean a little more into the hip flexor of the right leg. And then we'll rein it all back in. Coming back to center here, squaring yourself off, making sure your hips haven't like twisted to either side. They should both be even. You'll walk your hands to the top of the left thigh to bring the chest up nice and tall. From here, I'm going to offer two options. So either one, you're taking your right arm up, and you can either lean it over to the left side so that you feel that stretch all along the right side of the body opening, or you can drop it behind the head and then bring the left hand up along your back to maybe interlace your fingers. And maybe if you're just grabbing onto whatever is there, your shirt, anything, that is just as good for opening the chest. One thing I don't want you to do is let it really splay open here. Be intentional about tucking those rib cages back down toward the belly button. And another thing that might feel good is to lean the head back into that top arm. Maybe your breath has quickened here. If you came up a little bit out of the lunge, try and sit it back down just for one more breath. And let the arms fall back down toward the mat as we lift that back leg and start to maybe shift forward and back just 1 inch or so. Not a lot of movement here. Just getting into that right hip flexor in a way that we have it. And then using the momentum you have here, step that foot up, back to the front of the mat. Spend a little second here in forward fold, just seeing the difference between the two sides. And then we'll start the same thing on the other side, this time stepping back, dropping the left knee, and taking whatever twist variation we decided we liked on the last side. Maybe the opposition, maybe open. Staying there and breathing. Maybe using a little more space. Excellent. And then we'll come back down here, squaring things off, making sure we're nice and stable before we walk up onto the top of the thigh. Settle back in, stretching the left hip flexor, and then bringing the left arm up long, either to lean over toward the right, opening the side body, or to bend behind the head and potentially grab onto with your opposite arm. Leaning the head back into the arm here, and either variation, making sure we're not really leaning forward to clasp the hands or to reach over. Staying nice and keeping the integrity of your spine. A few more breaths. Taking note of what your body is asking for. And then let go of the arms wherever they are. Coming back to the mat, tucking the back toes, and coming up for that little shift back and forth, back and forth. Gorgeous. This time, we'll drop the back knee and come back toward that knee so that we are standing on our shins. And you can come up to stand. You don't have to sit like we were at the beginning of class. You want to bring your hands right to the top of your hips so that the fingers are pointing up. And we'll use this kind of as a way to get into a little bit of a back bend here. So you're pressing the hips forward instead of allowing the back to just dip back. Think of it as pushing the hips forward and lifting with the chest. Try that, maybe a few breaths. Maybe you come out and then come back in. If you're like super open and advanced, feel free to reach back, to grab onto your heels. taking whatever option feels right for you today. Not yesterday, not usually, today. Elbows are both pointing back toward the back of the room, so they're squeezing together. Beautiful. And you can let that go, come to sit. Maybe rock forward a little bit just for some opposition here. And we'll take it one more time. Coming up onto the hips, finding whatever variation works for you, and then leaning back as you lift up, pressing the hips forward. Your third exhale, you can let it come back up. Beautiful. So from here, semi-awkward transition, we're coming into a pigeon pose, and you may want to grab either your blanket or your block or pillow. So we're stepping forward, either leg, toe heeling that leg so that it comes over to the opposite wrist, ankle to opposite wrist, bringing that knee down so that the shin is as parallel to the front of the mat as possible, and then scooching that back leg back. This pose should maybe feel kind of nicer than it usually does, because we've done a lot of the work of opening in these areas that you might need to be open. But if you still have a little space that you want to pad between the ground and your hip, find that prop, stick it under here, and instead of coming down to relax, we're going to tent those fingertips again and find that same pattern of shoulder dips. Exhaling down, coming up tall in between. Exhaling down, lifting up. Just work through a few of those. Again, using the breath, sending it to where you need it. Once you've finished up this round, you can plant the hands, tuck the back toes, and use that to lift up your right leg or left leg, whichever one was in front. Take it to the back and kind of shake it out behind you. Just like let it party a little. It doesn't have to be like a fancy three-legged dog or anything, just shake it out. And then we'll step it down from here and come forward into that other side. So maybe you can swing that straight over. Maybe you again want to lunge forward and heel toe it over to the opposite wrist. Either way, finding what works for you here. Making sure that back leg is reaching long, hip is sitting down, and walking into those little shoulder dips whenever you're ready. Inhale long, exhale twist. Once you've made it through that last set, go ahead and remove the prop if you have it and sit yourself onto the hip, swinging the right leg around so that you can lay yourself back onto your back here. And we're going to take this right ankle and cross it over your left knee for a figure four stretch, which should feel really nice after a pigeon. So while you're here, you can reach underneath the left thigh and bring everything back. And stay and breathe. We'll be here for about 30 seconds. So maybe you want to find a little rock from side to side. Super important to keep that top foot, the right foot, flexed so that you can protect the knee. Maybe you want to make sure your tailbone is pressing down into the mat. And maybe you don't love that option of reaching through to the thigh. Maybe you just want to stay with the foot planted, pressing away on the knee to open up more in the hip. you chose to be here, we're going to make sure that the leg is lifted so that we can tilt this whole lower body carriage over toward the left side and come into a twist. So your right arm will reach long. Maybe you'll look toward that right palm. You can bring the left hand to the top of the right thigh. Deepen the twist with each exhale. Maybe you let the eyes flutter closed. Gently here, roll yourself back into center and switch the leg that's on top. So the left ankle coming this time to the right knee. Maybe staying here and pressing away gently with that left hand and left knee. Or maybe reaching beneath the thigh and pulling everything in. Exploring a little here. There's an option to rock. Option to use the left elbow to press away on that other leg. Taking what you need. And then whenever you're ready for it, you can let those legs fall over to the opposite side, the right this time. Reaching long with the left arm, palm faces the ceiling. Maybe you glance over toward the left. Maybe you use the right hand to twist even deeper. Coming back to your breath here. It's definitely not one of the easiest positions to breathe in. It does almost make it easier to settle your focus on making sure the breath is coming through with full inhales and emptying exhales. Nice and slow, let yourself roll back up to center. And from here, bringing both knees in, you can kind of give yourself a little hug, maybe lift the head. And now we'll reach through the knees, grabbing onto the outer edges of the feet to pull your knees back down toward your armpits for a happy baby pose. The feet are flexed here, kicking up to the ceiling. If you're feeling open in the hamstrings, maybe you want to straighten one leg and then the other. Test it out. This is another great place to try rocking from side to side. Or just staying super still and keeping the tailbone pressed down to the mat and the shoulders pulling away from the ears. Winding down here. Beautiful. And you can let the feet come together as they drop to the mat with the knees wide. Resting the hands maybe on your hips or on your belly. We're about to wind down. And I'll talk a bit about the next pose that we're going to take for the end of class while we're here. The reason I wanted you to have two props is so you can have something beneath your back and beneath your head, so that we can lay in a supported fish, allowing the chest to be open and the rest of the body to relax. So you can bring your hands to the outsides of your thighs, kind of close them up together as you sit yourself up and locate both of those props. Maybe the pillow is what's behind your back and the towel is long along your spine. You have some time here to get things set up, so see what feels good, but you should be able to lie back and not feel like your head is like knocking off to the back or really exposed in the throat. You want to feel supported, but you also want to get that lift of the chest. Whatever you're placing underneath you should start above your hips. So it should also fit into the curve of your spine, not lift the hips as well. I hope you can see this. It's not the best with a towel, but it's what we have. From here, you can let the feet splay open to the sides. Bring the arms long, palms facing up. And let those eyes close as your shoulders melt down into the mat. And I encourage you again here to note whenever your mind wanders, whether it's a thought about something else you need to do today, or a weird feeling, I just want you to see that thing, that thought or feeling, as if it were a cloud passing by on an otherwise completely blue sky. Just notice it. Say, oh, a thought. And let it keep on flowing past you. If you'd like more of an anchor for your mind, if you're feeling like your mind is a little busy today, an easy way to do that is to count your breath. 1 with the inhale, 2 with the exhale, all the way up to 10, and then you'll start over. So I'll leave you for about 3 minutes to focus on being present with the breath. It is okay if you've been distracted. Just label the thought, label the feeling, and come back to counting the breaths. breath into the belly, feeling the openness of your chest. Come out of this, you can gently roll over to one side, allowing the arm to serve as a little bit of a pillow here before you press yourself up, strengthen your arms into a comfortable seat. You can keep the eyes closed, relax the hands on the thighs, and together we'll close out class with 3 deep breaths, letting go of all your air. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling out the mouth. 2 more, deep inhale, and breath out. Last time, inhale deep, and let it go. Take your time, opening your eyes, coming back into the world. Thank you all so much for showing up for you today and with me. This is always a highlight of my week. I love the accountability system of showing up for myself to show up for other people. So as usual, thank you so much.